Hello and welcome to Reaseheath sheep unit. Okay, so these are the Reaseheath sheep that are all ready to lamb. James has been talking to you yesterday about the breed of our sheep, gestation length, scanning the sheep and the condition of the sheep. Okay, so breed of the sheep. So these are nearly all mule sheep. Okay, so they're a crossbreed of two different types of sheep. Gestation period, did any of you remember the gestation period from yesterday? That's 147 days for gestation period. Okay, and that's the length of time that they're in pregnant for, so from tupping to giving birth. Obviously some of them go over, some of them go under, but that's generally the length of time that they are. So you'll see that our sheep have got dots on the backs, and that's because we scan them to see how many lambs that they've got inside them. We aim for around 200%, which means we have 2 lambs for every ewe that we've got on the unit. We will have quite a few singles, but we'll have several triplets, and the aim is that we know which ones are having a single. We can foster one of the triplets onto them so that they all have 2 lambs. The reason we like them to have 2 lambs is they have 2 teats, and so 2 teats is ideal for rearing 2 lambs. So today we're going to talk about what it's like to be a shepherd. Here at Reaseheath we have Anthony as our shepherd, and he spends very long hours looking after our sheep for us. If you're a hill farmer, then it's obviously a very cold, wet job to do. Most hill farmers these days will have a quad bike and very good sheepdogs to help get them down off the hills at certain times of the year. Obviously you have very busy periods in the year and you have very quiet periods in the year. And at the moment Ant's having one of his very busy periods because we're lambing. And that means that needs to be somebody near the sheep 24 hours of the day, just in case any of them get into any problems when they're giving birth. So after we've scanned our sheep, we then know who's got 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 lambs growing inside of them. And the reason we do that is not only so that we can foster at birth, but so that we can feed them slightly differently. So the ewes that are only having 1 or maybe 2 lambs will do very well off just a very simple, basic silage grass diet. Those that are expecting 3 or maybe even 4 lambs will obviously need a bit more energy in their diet, so we will add some concentrates or some fodder beet to those diets to try and give them more energy so that they can look after their lambs and can maintain their own bodies. Okay, so talking about the diet and what we're feeding these. So our sheep at the moment are on grass silage, some maize silage, some straw, some concentrates or blend, and molasses. So what are all those things? Well, molasses is a liquid sugar. Comes to the farm in a big tanker and it's dark, thick, chocolatey brown. And it's just pure sugar, and that gives them lots of energy. Grass silage is when we go out in the spring and summer and cut the grass in the fields, let it dry a bit, bring it back to the farm and encase it in a clamp, compress it, get all the air out of it, and cover it up and let it ferment for a few months before we start using it. Maize silage. Maize silage is, you all have corn on the cob at home, so that's come off a maize plant. And what we do is we chop the whole plant down, the corn on the cobs, the leaves, the stalks, everything gets chopped up and again put into a silage clamp here at college, and then later on in the year we can feed it as feed. The straw. So the straw comes from when people grow wheat and barley, and then they combine it and they take the grain off it, but they leave behind the stalks, and that stalk is baled and we use that to bed our sheep down, or the better stuff we use to feed them with, so that's mixed into the diet. It's high in fibre, so that keeps them bodies in good condition. And then the blend will be all the vitamins and minerals and some extra energy that they need to keep their body condition and to grow their lambs so that they're all healthy. Because we scan them, we have our sheep penned in different pens. So we have singles, twins and triplets. So the singles won't have much of the concentrate in there. The triplets will have a lot more, and that's why we have them in the different groups, so that we can feed them according to what they're growing. Getting ready for lambing. So obviously you can see all our sheep are inside now because we're getting ready for lambing. Here at college, because we lamb in February, early March, it's easier and safer for us to lamb indoors. Okay, so when we bring them in, we'll pen them as to whether they're having 1, 2, 3 or maybe 4 lambs. In our second shed down the bottom, we will have individual pens, so that when our ewes have lambed and they've cleaned their lambs up and the lambs are up on the feet, we will move them to an individual pen where the mums can bond with their lambs, get to know them. We can do health checks on them. We can tag them if we want to tag them, so that we can keep a record of how well they're growing. And then any of the other tasks we need to do, like castrating the male lambs, will be done in those first 2 or 3 days of life. Anthony will have lots of long plastic gloves about. He'll have got a good stock of those in before lambing, so that if he has to aid any of the ewes, he's got a nice clean hand to put inside to help use lamb. He will have extra minerals for any of the sheep that might not be very well. We get a disease called twin lamb disease, and that's because there's too much energy going into the fetuses that the ewes are growing, and she's not getting enough for herself. So we have extra vitamins and minerals for those sheep. We might just have an odd sheep that goes very lame just after lambing, and Anthony will be ready with all the equipment ready to do those kind of tasks. As a ewe has lambed and she's licked her lamb up, we will also dip their navels into an iodine solution, which helps keep them clean and also helps them to dry up quite quickly. So their navel is like your belly button. That is what kept them attached to their mum while they were growing. And obviously, whilst they're inside the mum, there's blood flowing through it. And as they leave the mum and mum stands up after she's given birth, that cord will snap, but we need it to dry up quickly so we can't get any infections going into the lambs through that open wound. So if we were not going to lamb our sheep until Easter or possibly end of April, we would probably lamb these sheep outside in the field. Outside in the field, obviously, we don't need to bed them down. They're in the fresh air. There's less diseases and infections out there. The only problem with lambing a sheep out in the field is, if there's a problem with one, we've got to catch her. And yes, you youngsters might be able to run around the field and catch them, but then you're going to stress our sheep out. So I've always liked lambing indoors, but a lot of people will lamb outdoors. They find it more refreshing. The sheep just get on with it naturally. And they never have to have big buildings which cost money to be able to house all their sheep. So it's cheaper and easier and less infections, less diseases if the sheep are lambed outside. But you can't really do it until April, May, when the weather starts getting a bit nicer, where there's some nice green grass coming through. And obviously it's a bit warmer. It's too cold at the moment to have our sheep outside with baby lambs on them. Okay, so that's the end for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've all learned something. Don't forget, join us tomorrow. There's some more new facts for you to learn.